brutal attack on 3 prison officers at the Category A prison HMP Frankland in Durham. Terrorist Hashem Abedi, who's serving 55 years for helping his brother plot the Manchester bombings, had access to a self-cook kitchen where he managed to make 2 blades from a baking tray, and the pan of boiling oil that he threw was made from butter sachets that he'd been collecting. Now, Robert Jenrick, who's the Shadow Justice Secretary, has said prisons are no longer places of punishment, but of appeasement. What do you think of his comment, Jane? Do you think that's true? What did you think, generally, when you heard this awful story?
Well, I think it's time for us to have a... I mean, this is supposed to be a Category A prison. So, I mean, my mind is boggling as to how you make 2 knives from a baking tray. You must need some other tool, etc.
You're not being monitored.
No, and if you read the story, you know, he had access to this kitchen, which strikes me as very odd for a supposedly Category A serious prisoner. They're saying that because he speaks Arabic and maybe the prison guards don't, that he was colluding with other... there's other Islamic terrorists in there with him and they were speaking a language and then other people, the guards didn't understand. All of that is just very strange because if you look at, say, the supermax prison, there's a one called ITVX Florence in America, and when we were on a Winnebago trip years ago, a family holiday, we were driving through Colorado and we suddenly went, what's that in the distance? And it was in the middle of the desert and it was just this huge building with, like, barbed wire. And it was this supermax prison. And even if you managed to get out, you were going nowhere. It was literally in the middle of nowhere. And the point of a supermax prison in America is that they are the most dangerous criminals, and they are as much in that building to protect the staff as they are, you know, the general public. So they're an escape risk, they're violent, and it's very strict because of that. Now, I don't understand why we don't have a similar system in this country, because clearly someone who has plotted a terrorist attack, who is in prison for 55 years, should be having some sort of punishment, and an access to a self-cook kitchen strikes me as very odd.
That struck me as odd. And also, I thought, even if you have got an access, surely you should be being monitored at all times.
Yeah,
exactly.
Mark Fairhurst, he's the National Chair of the Prison Officers Association. He said, I'm of the opinion that allowing access to cooking facilities and items that can threaten the lives of staff should be removed immediately.
Exactly.
And he said separation centres hold the most dangerous terrorist offenders who simply do not wish to alter their ideology and, as this event confirms, are determined to inflict violence on those who hold them securely. We must now review the freedoms that we allow separation centre prisoners to have. They should be able to cook for themselves.
It baffles me that you have to have a review. It's like, it's a kitchen. Like, why do you need to review that? Surely you can think, you know, a kitchen where there's so many sharp items, things that are dangerous. You know, I don't understand why you'd have to review that. I find that really sad.
And also, by the way, sorry to interrupt, his sentence was extended because when he was in Belmarsh, he attacked 2 guards there.
Yeah.
So there's history.
Exactly, he's got history. I just think it just baffles me that you have to have a review to decipher the fact that you're in prison and you've got access to these things. I just think it's unheard of.
But then what would you... That people will talk about how do you reform people. So if somebody is either violent or dangerous criminal, you know, their punishment is to have their freedom, their liberty taken away. That is the punishment. So whilst they're in prison, do you believe there should be some form of rehabilitation? So perhaps cooking is like, you know, we'll teach them some skills.
But he's only really just gone into, you know, he's on a 55-year sentence. So, yes, I agree in rehabilitation with lesser crimes, with people that are close to coming out.
But not rehabilitation where he can be a danger to others.
That maybe he feels he's got nothing to lose.
I think the thing is, he hasn't got anything to lose. He's in there for the rest of his life anyway, so why are they trying to reform him? He's never going to reform. And even if he did, I don't care if he turned into a saint. The fact is, he's a murderer and he should never, ever, ever be released. I don't care how reformed he is.
Well, he actually... He helped his brother. I'm not saying... Yes. He helped his brother who was the suicide bomber, Hashem Abedi. He helped him... and he helped him to plan the whole...
So he thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'm also concerned about the victims and the parents of the victims.
Yeah.
Because they're sitting here going through what they're going through. They are dealing with the consequences of his brother's actions and his actions too, because the combination of the two is what made the incident happen in the first place. But they're now at home going, it's not stopped.
It's not stopped.
Yeah.
So even though
also,
he's been locked
prisoners?
up, it's not stopped. He's still hurting more people. How can that be allowed to
And
happen?
the prison officers' families now going through it and
Yeah.
also asking the same questions.
Yeah.
How was that allowed to happen? I mean, it's just, the whole thing's a joke. And what I hate is them going, we're going to look into it. How many times?
Well, interesting you should say that, because I do
I
have...
said something interesting, market.
The Ministry of Justice, they say, our thoughts remain with the 2 prison officers still in hospital. There were 3 prison officers injured, 2 still in hospital. There will be a full review into how this attack was able to happen alongside the
Oh, for
separate
Pete's sake.
police inquiry.
They'll cite lack of resources, lack of staff, etc., etc. But I don't understand why they don't have full-time CCTV in the cell of it. I think when you commit a crime like that, you remove all rights.
Yeah.
You have no human rights, so...
But I mean, I don't know, but I would just imagine that's probably why that's probably been mooted, and they go, oh, well, you know, that's against their rights of privacy and human rights for privacy, exactly. Well, obviously, you know, our thoughts go out to the families of the prison officers themselves, but also their families. A terrible time that must have been for them.